Good morning, you guys. Your boy B Mahari here, representing Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to the entire LDBC and the basketball and boxing community. Y'all get what I'm saying? Don't miss basketball conversations every Friday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. This is where we discuss basketball related topics, news, debates, and everything else in the world of basketball. All right. And for those of you who are new to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to get all the latest notifications when I start dropping videos and live streams. And please spread the word about the channel. All right, let's get down to it. Let's get down to it. So, when I came home from work yesterday, um, I got this interesting notification on my phone. And what caught my attention is what Drew Brees had to say when it terms about kneeling for the national anthem. And he basically made a statement that was completely ignorant and oblivious. All right. And Drew Brees' statement proves how ignorant the NFL is when it comes to these kind of issues. Now, I'm going to read to you what he had to say yesterday to fully grasp and understand what he was talking about. So, his comments came as obviously as a result of the death of George Floyd at the hands of police in Minneapolis. All right, and Drew Brees basically said that he would never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag and the country. All right, now this is what he had to say after he posted this on Instagram yesterday. And quote, I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country. Let me tell you what I see or what I feel when the national anthem is played and when I look at the flag of the United States. I envision my two grandfathers who fought for this country during World War II, one in the Army and one in the Marine Corps, both risking their lives to protect our country and to make our country and this world a better place. So every time I stand with my hand over my heart, looking at the flag and singing the national anthem, that's what I'm thinking about. In many cases, that brings me to tears, thinking about all that has been sacrificed, not just those in the military, but for those in that matter and those throughout the civil rights movement of the 60s and all that has been endured by so many people up until this point. And is everything right with our country right now? No, it's not. We still have a long way to go. But I think what you do by standing there and showing respect to the flag with your hand over your heart, it shows unity. It shows that we are all in this together, but we can all do better, and that we are all part of the solution. And quote. So immediately after he said that on Instagram, he immediately faced major backlash to the point where even a lot of the loyal Saints fans were burning down his jerseys. They were basically ripping them apart and pretty much giving them the biggest middle finger of all for basically for the comments that he stated. All right, and I'm going to get to my 2 cents on the comments in just a little bit. But he tried to clarify what he said, and when he was asked about a perceived conflict between his statement on social media and it asked if this could create any divisions within the locker room, such as guys as like the Malcolm Jenkins and the DeMarco Davis, who are leaders of the Players Coalition. This is what he had to say on that. He said, and quote, I love and respect my teammates, and I stand right there with them in regards to fighting for racial equality and justice. I also stand with my grandfathers who risked their lives for this country and countless other military men and women who do it on a daily basis. All right. But Malcolm Jenkins was not so receptive about that. And he was a teammate of Brees when he was playing for the Saints between '09 and 2013. And on this IGTV page, Malcolm Jenkins pretty much lashed out at Brees in a way that I've never seen it before. This is what Malcolm Jenkins had to say. End quote. Drew Brees, if you don't understand how hurtful and insensitive your comments are, you are part of the problem. To think that because your grandfather served this country and you have a great respect for your flag, that everyone else should have the same ideals and thoughts you do is ridiculous. And it shows that you don't know history. Because when our grandfathers fought for this country and served and they came back, they didn't come back to a hero's welcome. They came back, got attacked for wearing their uniforms, and came back to to racism, to complete violence. And then he continued on. And here we are with the world on fire, and you continue to first criticize how we peacefully protest because it doesn't fit what you what you do and your beliefs without ever acknowledging the fact that a man was murdered at the hands of police in front of all of us, and as that been continuing for centuries. That's that the same brothers that you break in the huddle with every single game, the same guys you bleed with and go to battle with every single day and go home to communities that have been decimated. Drew, unfortunately, you're somebody who doesn't understand their privilege. And quote. So pretty much Malcolm Jenkins was pretty much eloquently stating his 2 cents and eloquently stating how rightfully ignorant Mr. Drew Brees is. All right. Now, I'm going to give my 2 cents on the whole entire thing here. Okay. Drew Brees' statements truly show a lot of vagueness and a lot of willing ignorance on the part of him. But do I expect for him to understand, the bloodshed, the sacrifice, and more importantly, the tears that black people have been through for centuries? No, I don't. Because if you want to be real here, his family never really understood that. And he personally has never understood that. So how could he relate to something like that when he's never even been that throughout his entire life? So the thing is, I'm not surprised about what he said. In matter of fact, I actually think that what he was just being honest that what this is just who he is because he doesn't understand and he will never understand what the issue at hand here is. And let me say this though about the kneeling thing. People need to stop taking this too far to what is not exactly what it meant. When Colin Kaepernick kneeled during the playing of the national anthem, it was not intended to insult the flag at any given point. It was to bring awareness to what is going on currently, right here and right now. And that is the fact that George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery were killed at the hands of corrupt police. That's just the facts of the matter. And it's been piling up like that with Philando Castile and Jamal Clark in my own neck of the woods. All right. And we can go all the way back to Trayvon Martin. All right. All these instances have pretty much cemented to the fact that people, people, black people have had horrible treatment at the hands of the police. And white people cannot relate to that because they live under the blanket of white privilege and they know that they rarely ever get pulled over by police. And even if they did get pulled over, nothing would ever happen to them because they understand what the complexion of what their skin color is. That's just, I mean, that's pretty much is what it is at this particular point. You know what I mean? And Malcolm Jenkins, who I heavily have had my issues with in the past because he basically betrayed Kaepernick and Eric Reed when he basically went behind their backs and negotiated with the National Football League, pretty much eloquently stated how wrongfully ignorant Drew Brees is, and everybody in their right mind knows that. All right, like I said in my last video, you gotta pick a side at this particular point because you cannot play both sides of the fence. You're either with fighting for equality for black people, or you're not. And so this right here by Breeze shows once again more of the same ignorance that the NFL has had since they blackballed Colin Kaepernick for the National Football League. And that's just the truth of the matter. And then if you go back to what Joe Lockhart wrote down in this editorial piece on CNN.com, he pretty much spilled the beans on the whole thing because the NFL knew that they were wrong for basically blackballing Colin Kaepernick. And get this, if Colin Kaepernick ends up winning major awards for his self-sacrifice and to bring in an awareness of an issue that has been basically been buried for centuries, this will reflect badly on the NFL, and it will prove to the point that how wrongfully the NFL was and not signing with Colin Kaepernick and listening to the perception of the of their own fan base that don't understand the issue at hand here. All right, and I haven't even watched the NFL in a long time. In fact, the only time I do is just probably for some quick Vikings highlights, but that's pretty much it. But the thing that Drew Brees is going to have to answer is what made you think of making that statement, and did you meant that statement to intend to the fact that you don't agree with kneeling down on the flag because you believe it doesn't match up to what your beliefs are, or do you believe what the other side says, or maybe I can go take it the next further. Do you believe what Donald Trump says about what his vision of America is? Those are the questions I would directly ask him to, and I know he wouldn't answer them because if he dared try to answer that, he would be in more deep hot water than it already is at this particular point. Because I've seen all around social media, people have been giving Drew Brees the business. All right, they've given him the business like I've never seen before, and even through my own Facebook page. I've seen a couple of people who are loyal fans to the New Orleans Saints and had Drew Brees jerseys pretty much in their own homes. Now they're taking them and basically saying, "Well, I'm going to sell them for cheap," or they're going to basically burn them to the ground. They really are upset about what he basically had to say. And listen, it's well and dandy about what he was trying to say, but all that vagueness about what his family did, serving in the country and all that's vague stuff. Because right now the military is basically split. Because right now they're playing they're trying to play the straddling the fence between what the basically the listening to the laws of the Constitution and to what the president wants, which is basically brutalizing protesters all across the country. When he obviously didn't do to show the same energy to the white supremacists during during the Charlottesville riots in 2016, and everybody knows that. All right, but again, this is something that people need to really understand here. All right, what everybody needs to understand is that the NFL is pretty much in a huge bind right now. And oh yeah, and by mistake there, the Charlottesville riots was basically in 2017, not 2016. So my personal mistake. But the point is this: the NFL right now is playing catch up. Because if you read the statement they posted on social media, it was pretty much weak, and it was just not. It was just basically half-assed because they knew what they did wrong. They knew they made a mistake, and they basically did it to try to cover their own backside. But everyone that knows about the NFL and what decisions that they made, they pretty much know what time it is. That statement, to all sincerity, was more of a PR move more than anything else. So I was never a fan of Drew Brees anyway, so it doesn't really matter what he pretty much says anyway. But I will not admit that did kind of threw me off towards left field a bit, but right now, people I'm pretty much are exposing themselves to what they truly are. I mean, this has been really one of the huge monumental moments in American history. And I think that in a sense there, it kind of really teaches us the fact that you can't always look up to these athletes and into your favorite celebrities because they will end up disappointing you if you basically turn the blind eye. And I know that there are a lot of New Orleans Saints fans, a lot of them that are disappointed about what he said. And the other thing too is the NFL is at least 70 and 80% black, and this is going to haunt Drew Brees' legacy for the rest of his life. Even if he comes back and apologizes and pretty much admit wrong and pretty much admit guilt to the words that he said, people will use this as ammunition to denigrate him as a man and as a football player. That's just the world that we live in. If black people get the same treatment all the time all the wrong reasons, all right. Unfortunately, this is going to apply for Drew Brees, regardless if he likes it or not. All right, because you could have used your platform to really just basically give us an understanding that what my family fought in the war, but this is a much bigger issue than what the flag is. But instead, he went entirely left field and tried to use a whole vague diatribe about how his family served in the war, and I just stand because the American flag means a lot to me. In the greater scheme of things, it's a vague statement, and you knew what you meant what you said. And I'm glad the people basically ripped him to the fire for it, and he rightfully deserved it. And so, you know, he's gonna look back on this and think what he was thinking. Because if you really had those thoughts in mind, don't ever spread out the social media. And even if you did, don't don't try to express it to anyone. All right. But I have no sympathy for Drew Brees of what he said, and he's gonna have to live with that for the rest of his life. And once again, his statement once again proves more of the same old ignorance that the NFL has shown over the last couple of years, and it's only going to get worse from here on in. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Peace.